drop 'em. One hook and I'll rock 'em. One more and I'll stop 'em. Call the fighter, I'll lock 'em. Op 'em. If he reach, then I'll pop 'em. Street sweeper, I'll wash 'em. Homicide, come and chalk 'em. Drop 'em. One hook and I'll rock 'em. One more and I'll stop 'em. Call the fighter, I'll lock 'em. Op 'em.
You are now tuned into the Boxing Bros. I'm Caden. I'm here with my co-host.
What's going on, everybody? It's the Commissioner, a.k.a. $1 Bill.
And this is G. What's good?
And it's the TBE. What up, man?
Good job.
All right. The first topic. Nah, man, I can't compete with that intro, man. You got that, TBE. All right, the first topic we're going to discuss on Boxing Bros is Eddie Hearn blocks Undisputed. Now, that's the title, but we'll discuss whether or not he actually did it. So we're going to turn to Michael Benson's Twitter feed. And as you know, Michael Benson, he's typically credible source. He does his research. He does his homework. And he also cites his sources in his tweets. So he tweeted about this, and I'm just going to find the tweet if it ever pulls up. All right, here we go. So here's the tweet, and it was tweeted 7 hours ago. Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk may not be able to be for Undisputed next, as the IBF have now ordered Usyk to defend versus Herkovich, and Herkovich's co-promoter Eddie Hearn confirmed they've requested immediate purse bids, which previously has forced champs to fight or vacate the IBF. So this is what an immediate purse bid means. Eddie Hearn on Herkovich, mandatory preventing Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk being undisputed. Immediate purse bids means you cannot get an exception for undisputed. Only way is if Herkovich is willing to give you an exception. He wants to fight for the world title. So the source is the IFL, so you can see that interview on IFL. The full interview is available. You can go to Michael Benson's page for that. Then Hearn said, I've already spoken to people involved in that fight, Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk, who are quite upset that Herkovich mandatory is going to stop Fury versus Usyk for now, but nothing to do with me. We represent Herkovich. We don't represent Fury or Usyk.
But it's nothing to do with me.
So he goes on to say, if Alexander Usyk vacates the IBF and fights Tyson Fury next for the WBA, WBC, and WBO, then Herkovich versus Ruiz would be ordered for the vacant IBF heavyweight world title. If Ruiz fights Deontay Wilder instead, then Herkovich versus Anthony Joshua would be ordered. So there it is in a nutshell. It looks like the IBF is going to order Alexander Usyk to fight Filip Herkovich for the IBF title, and Eddie Hearn's requesting that they make an immediate purse bid. So if that happens, then Usyk can't get an exception. The only person who can give an exception would be Herkovich, and he's saying Herkovich wants to fight for the title, so he wouldn't give the exception, which means we won't get undisputed. And as you know, they'll order Andy Ruiz versus Herkovich. Andy Ruiz is currently scheduled to fight Deontay Wilder, which means they would order Herkovich versus Anthony Joshua. And we all know Anthony Joshua's ties to Eddie Hearn. So that's why the question is, did Eddie Hearn block Undisputed? But what is your thoughts on that, $1 Bill? And do you think that Eddie Hearn's trying to block Undisputed?
The IBFE. That's what that belt should be called. The IBFE. IB for Eddie. Nah, yeah. The IBF rocks with Eddie. You know, everybody know that. Going back to the back in the days, they rock with Eddie. Is he blocking, or is he trying to do right by his company, by his fighters? Trying to make it so one of his fighters can go. At the end of the day, this situation is blocking. At the end of the day, it is blocking Undisputed. But Eddie's looking out for Eddie. He's not looking out for anybody else but him and his fighters. And hey, it's business. That's what I'm learning. We got to take our feelings and our passion out of it, because at the end of the day, these guys, they behind the doors and they're just focused on business. It's not back in the days when everybody think about legacy and stuff like that. Now it's just business. Business
decision from Trill Dollar Bill. Conspiracy G.
Yeah, I'm being honest, man. This is my conspiracy bag. I honestly believe that Eddie is using Hrgovic like he did with Dillian White just to uplift Anthony Joshua. And here's why, right? I'm not mad at the fact that, IBF announced the fight, right? Even though I'm pretty sure behind the scenes is Eddie petitioning for that fight to be made, right? But at the same time, the WBC did just order, Wilder versus Ruiz, So that kind of tells me that Undisputed isn't happening anytime soon, right? So they have to do what they got to do politically, right? I think, though, if, in fact, Usyk and Fury could come to terms that, Hrgovic should allow them to have Undisputed, right? Now, the only way I could see Hrgovic not stepping aside is if Eddie's thinking, nah, because whoever wins then, his fear might be they're going to relinquish all the belts, and then AJ and Eddie's going to have to start all over from scratch. So then Undisputed for AJ may never happen. So if you force IBF to make Hrgovic versus, let's say either Usyk, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't think Fury's going to fight Usyk if the IBF's not involved, right? Like, it ain't happening. You know what I mean? So that means Fury's going to have to wait again, right? So that means Hrgovic versus Usyk, right? Let's just say, like, Eddie's just hoping, like, he's just wishing on a star that Hrgovic could beat Usyk, which I doubt. But let's just say he pulls it off somehow. Then it's now Hrgovic either versus Fury or Hrgovic versus AJ. And Eddie's going to probably make Hrgovic fight AJ, which it should be an easy fight for AJ. Now, boom, we go now, fast forward, Tyson Fury versus AJ for Undisputed, right? I think that's what they're trying to pull. If I was Al, I'd be hating on Eddie right now and be like, yo, WBC, Wilder's not fighting Ruiz anymore. Ruiz is going to fight Hrgovic. Ruiz is going to take that number one spot. And then we're going to have Ruiz, versus Usyk. So that way, let's just say Ruiz does get in there. Ruiz can now go up against Tyson Fury, so that way PBC's in the mix, So I don't know. So this is what I think what Eddie's trying to do is Eddie is trying to use Hrgovic to get AJ back into position to become a champion again and hopefully Undisputed, which he should do that. However, I'm just hoping Hrgovic is looking at it from a business sense where it's like, hey, Eddie, if you're going to use me to set up AJ, I better get fully compensated. Like, don't play that man, yo. That dude he just got married or he was engaged. I know that for a fact. He was engaged a couple months ago. That dude's probably starting a little family. So I hope he gets the bag, man, before Eddie, bends him over. Pause.
TVE.
Man, it's a lot going on right now. I don't know why. I didn't see fighters have mandatories and then they skip the mandatories for a championship fight, things like that. And I don't know how deep Eddie's pockets are now. He's been taking a couple L's, but there's no way around like telling fighters to step aside to let Undisputed happen. So if they're willing. If they're like, oh, we'd have no choice, then yeah, I think they're choosing not to have Undisputed, the biggest fight that we all been wanting for almost like 7 years now.
Who are you saying is choosing not to have Undisputed?
Eddie now. Like this is Eddie. Like Eddie, if your pockets run deep, man, you can handle. You could easily make these fights disappear, but you're choosing not to.
But Eddie doesn't want to make this fight disappear because Herkovich is his fighter. He co-promotes Herkovich.
Yeah. So it's even. I don't know. So maybe Eddie want to hold on to these 3 belts a little longer than expected. But it's just a lot going on. I got no beef with Eddie. I love Eddie. Eddie, I just wish you just handle things a little bit better. I know, the way your cards is played out, it happened. But if Usyk fights Herkovich, I don't see Herkovich win. I don't see it. There's a possible way. I don't know. From Herkovich's last performance, he didn't look stellar to me. He didn't look like one of the promising prospects in heavyweight boxing. But if Herkovich wants a shot, let that man get a shot. I'm all respect to him. If he wins, all props to you, or you make me look like a fool. But I just feel there's this is what happens with boxing. Like there's people who want their shot and they want it now because they as long as you wait, they lose out on that window. I feel it goes a lot of training. They've trained for it. They put in the hours in the gym. Everything, and I respect all fighters wanting their shot. And when you hold all the belts, you have to fight all competitors. When you're a majority of the belts, not all the belts. But this is just a sticky situation. I want to see Undisputed with the best of the best. But if the guys who work hard want their shot, I'm not mad at it. But let's get Undisputed. We've been arguing this fight for a long time now, yo. Like, can we just do hashtag let's get Undisputed? Because
hold on, for the record, we didn't argue Usyk versus Fury. It was always
I know, but we've been arguing Undisputed for a long time.
So.
Let's get Undisputed. And yes, our fighters may not be energy, but I still want to see this fight happen. I want to see who's the best of the best heavyweights.
It's gonna be Herkovich.
So in boxing, we've seen this. In boxing, we've seen this before. This is a classic tit for tat, I got your back. That's what this is. And I'm going to tell you how this is a tit for tat, I got your back. Anthony Joshua was supposed to be involved in the undisputed fight with Tyson Fury in Saudi Arabia. The contracts were drawn up. Eddie did all the groundwork. If you remember, Eddie flew out, negotiated, did all the stuff to make the fight happen. And then Fury couldn't do the fight because arbitration with Deontay Wilder ruled that he had to give the third fight. And Fury didn't try to appeal it. He didn't try to fight it. He just agreed. And so he went on to fight Deontay Wilder. So that's the first time Anthony Joshua was supposed to be involved with Undisputed was with Tyson Fury. And it was supposed to be in Saudi Arabia. Eddie did all the groundwork to make it happen, and it didn't happen because Fury lost arbitration to Deontay Wilder. Then, while Fury's going to go fight Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua has a mandatory with Alexander Usyk, which Alexander Usyk agreed to step aside and allow Undisputed to happen. But because it didn't, he had to fight the WBO mandatory, which was Alexander Usyk, and Usyk beat him. So Usyk beat him and then took all his belts. So now that he lost to Usyk, he's not going to be involved in Undisputed unless he wins the rematch. So then they have the rematch and AJ loses the rematch. So essentially now you're going to have Tyson Fury and Usyk fighting for Undisputed. And Eddie Hearn is sitting back peeved and upset because one, AJ was supposed to be fighting for Undisputed. He already had the $1 million deal set up in Saudi Arabia, and Fury pulled out of that deal because he had to fight Deontay Wilder, which led to AJ having to fight his mandatory with Usyk and then losing. So now Eddie Hearn's supposed to sit back and watch those two fight for Undisputed when it was supposed to be his golden goose. No. Eddie went back to the drawing board and said, wait a darn minute. I co-promote Herkovich, and he's the mandatory challenger for that IBF, which explains why Herkovich won that fight against Zhang, when really a lot of people felt like Zhang won, but it was in the best interest of Matchroom and the zone for that fight to go to Herkovich. So now Herkovich is the mandatory, the same way Usyk was the mandatory for Anthony Joshua. So now he's going to try to break up Undisputed the way they did it for him. So what he's saying is, if I'm not having fun, nobody's having none. You messed up Undisputed for me, I'm messing up Undisputed for you. That's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. And that's why he said the only way to get an exception is if Herkovich gives the exception. If they make an immediate purse bid, which is what he's requested, so then Herkovich holds all the keys. He's already said Herkovich doesn't want to step aside. He wants to fight. So he's saying if you don't take this fight, you're going to have to vacate. And you know Eddie Hearn is going to be advising Herkovich not to take step aside money and not to do it because he's going to want to break Undisputed up. So do I think Eddie Hearn blocked? Absolutely. But as Trill said, is that good business? I guess you can say so. Go ahead, G.
But, and this is why I'm leaning more on the Al Heyman. Let's start hating then. What's to stop Al from just telling Ruiz, hey, you know what? Like, vacate your ranking in WBC and just go to the IBF and just fight Herkovich.
He should.
You know
Why
what I mean?
not?
So, yeah, because then
that doesn't hurt Eddie still, because Eddie co-promotes Herkovich.
Mm-hmm. Damn,
so if Herkovich beats Ruiz, Eddie still wins.
So then who's number 3 on the WBC, like after Ruiz and Wilder? Because then they'll probably just order that person to fight Wilder.
I don't know, maybe Dilly and I would have to check. But
okay,
what I'm saying to you is, Eddie, if Ruiz doesn't take the fight with Herkovich, Eddie gets 2 bites at the apple, because now he's going to have Herkovich and AJ. And I think he's banking on Ruiz saying, I don't want to fight Herkovich. I want to fight Deontay Wilder because there's going to be more money in fighting Wilder. And plus, you got to look at it like
Frank Sanchez. Frank Sanchez is currently ranked number 3.
God, nobody's gonna. They're not gonna order that fight. Nobody's ordering that fight.
You're gonna skip him.
Yeah, they're gonna skip him and go right to number 4. Nah, but here's the thing. It's already difficult for people. PBC is already reluctant to let their fighters go and fight on another platform. PBC is in a position where they really need this Wilder Ruiz fight because they need to generate money because they haven't been doing very well. So I don't think that they're just going to allow Andy Ruiz to pull out of that fight to fight Herkovich. And so I think once Ruiz declines, it's going to be AJ versus but it is for a vacant title now. So will Andy Ruiz say, hey, I want to be champion, you know?
That's
so
what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, and at the end of the day, the ball's in Andy Ruiz's court. But remember, Andy Ruiz tried to back out of a contract with Luis Ortiz to take another fight. What was the other fight Ruiz wanted to take? Remember, he was scheduled to fight Luis Ortiz, and he tried to back out of that fight to fight on Triller. And
yeah, you're right. Hold on.
They said Andy Ruiz, nah, bro, you got a contract, you got to take this fight. So he ended up having to fight Luis Ortiz anyway. So if he's already signed to fight Wilder, then and he wants to try to back out of fighting Wilder now because he wants to get a shot at the IBF, I don't know if they're gonna allow that.
Nah. If I was Al, I would allow it because it makes sense. Like, hey, you're signed to us anyway, so if you could get the IBF belt, then that just benefits us. You know, it benefits PBC.
I think they should do it, but again,
but I don't understand their financial trouble, so that does make sense. Like Wilder versus Ruiz would be a huge pay-per-view for them, but
it still would be a huge pay-per-view if it was for the IBF, right? It would be a huge pay-per-view if it was for the IBF.
That's what I'm saying. This is chestnut checkers, man. Yeah. If I was Al, I'm hating on Eddie. Eddie, you hating on Undisputed, we hating on you. You know what I mean? So
and just to close this out, this is what upsets me about boxing, man. It's like Anthony Joshua wanted to be undisputed, and the penalty for him was he had to fight the best back to back in mandatory defenses, and that catches up with you. And now you see Usyk has inherited that problem. He has 4 three of the major belts. He has 3 belts, right? And now every time there's going to be a mandatory challenger getting in the way of you accomplishing your goals. And that's the amount of stress that AJ was under. And unfortunately, these sanctioning bodies don't care about Undisputed because Undisputed isn't good for their bottom line. They much rather have the belts spread apart and other people needing it and paying their sanctioning fees or whatever. So we've entered a scenario where I would like to have an undisputed champion. It's the first undisputed since Lennox Lewis. Let's settle these debates, and then you can let the belts go, and then people can earn their shot. But as again, we're seeing it's probably not going to happen. Business, politics. Am I mad at Eddie? No. But what I would say is Eddie was perfectly okay with it when Usyk was willing to step aside and let Anthony Joshua fight in Saudi Arabia with Tyson Fury. It didn't get his shot. But now that AJ is not going to be a part of all that, he definitely wants to ruin it. And I think it's because he feels like he got played. But when all is said and done, man, this is just another reason why boxing isn't as big as it can be. And it's another reason why YouTube boxing is taking over because people get the fights they want or fights that they're interested in. And here we are with another roadblock to Fury Usyk.
Let us know how you feel in the comment section. Please like and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter. And please check out our podcast on all major streaming services. We're just getting started. We are the Boxing Bro.